Brenner Mills, Minnesota Vikings. Just want to win one before I die.
Lane Cooner, the conductor of the Baker train.
What is up, everybody? I think that's Steve's first time seeing the intro. Steve, is that your first time seeing the intros?
That one, yeah. Good God.
Welcome in to another episode of the Wide Eye Sports NFL Top 10 Power Rankings. You have your boy Bryn hosting as always. We got Spoon joining us as always, and we have a new guest on the show, Steve. Steve, introduce yourself to the people. Tell them who you are. Tell them who your favorite team is. Tell them a little about yourself.
Well, we
you
see
who his favorite team
the
is.
one
Jesus.
episode that I was on, but I'm a massive Chiefs fan. I'm not a fake fan, despite what Brenner might say from time to time. So yeah, I'm here to talk ball.
Can confirm he was a St. Louis Rams fan until 2019.
Dude, shut up, dude. You cannot put that on the waves. You cannot.
I'm just kidding. All right, no. Welcome in. We're gonna do the entire top 10 episode. We're gonna get right into it. This week we did let Steve participate in the voting, so we have myself, Spoon, Steve, and our other member of the show, Riley, who is on hiatus right now. He's still participating in the voting. So, without further ado, we have our top 10 list, and I'm going to pull up a few honorable mentions. A few of our honorable mentions are 1, the Los Angeles Rams, and 2, the Los Angeles Chargers. Both teams received votes. Neither team received enough votes to make it into the top 10, but they did make votes. So, that being said, are you guys ready to see who comes in at number 10 on the list?
Yeah, well, I just want to point out that just to let people know, like, this was a very tough top 10 because there's 7 teams that I believe should definitely be up there, which I think I'd put them all in my top 10. You just listed one that was left off, but I mean, between 1, 2, 3, 4, there's like 5, 6 teams that could all go in those last 3 spots, and it was tough. It was very tough for me.
It's a tough time. I know Steve's not as big a fan of the Chargers. Being a Chiefs fan, he's not a huge Chargers believer, and I mean, rightfully so. I mean, they lost to the Chiefs, so they did lose, so they fall in the power rankings. But number 10 on our list of top 10 teams is the Seattle Seahawks. They're leading their division right now. I think the Rams are a better team right now, but the Seahawks are leading their division. They do have a better record. They did win. So the Seahawks have just been so up and down for me this season. It's hard to put them over the Rams regardless of record. The Rams were hurt earlier in the year, which for me gives them a little excuse. The Seahawks defense was banged up at times, but they lost to the Giants at home. It's just been so up and down. Steve, what do you think about the Hawks?
I mean, I like them. I kind of like what you said. I don't like them as much as I like the Rams, especially now that they're healthy. I think that they've looked absolutely nutty since everybody's kind of gotten back, especially Puka getting back in there. But Geno's balling, dude. Seattle's playing okay, and they are where they should be. They were a little bit higher on my list. I think I actually had the Rams at 10, but yeah, I mean, I don't hate them. I don't hate the spot.
Spoon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I said last week, I was like, hey man, because when we made our picks, I said the Seattle Seahawks were going to go into Arizona and solidify themselves as the top dog in that division.
Yep.
That's exactly what they did. It was +2. They were the underdogs, came out with a big dub there. I'm liking what I see from this team. I actually had them at 9, just a little bit higher, but that was one of the teams that I was like, man, do I put them in over the Denver Broncos? The Broncos are playing excellent, and I put them in above the Broncos. I had to. Yeah, that's a huge win for them.
I feel like whoever wins the NFC West is going to be this year's version of last year's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they don't have the best record, but they're a dog of a team, and they're going to throw haymakers in the first round of the playoffs with whoever they play.
Yeah, because regardless of how bad that division is doing, they're still really good teams. I mean, the Rams, if they get hot, they could be a huge.
The Rams have beat both Buffalo and Minnesota.
Yeah. I think the Rams could get in and surprise a lot of people. I've got a lot of faith in them.
The Rams offense is just so explosive with McVay and the weapons that they're always going to be a threat.
And now that the weapons are all healthy again too, you see that they're playing excellent. Yep.
Yeah. All right. You ready to find out who's at number 9?
Let's do it.
Machine.
The Denver Broncos. Steve, I know you're not going to love this one. He's not exactly what you would call a Broncos fan. I think you would actually roll it the other way around if you had to. I like this though. Denver's defense is really good. They are definitely the second best team in the AFC West for sure, in my opinion. Sean Payton's got Bo Nix balling, and Steve Kuhn, you can vouch for me. I am not a Bo Nix fan. I am not a Sean Payton guy, but Sean Payton has Bo Nix playing at a high level right now through scheme and through coaching and keeping, Bo Nix here. He's keeping Bo Nix very, very here and just keeping him very focused on what he needs to do right. And he's keeping it simple for him. Complete the short passes, complete the open passes. Don't get too complicated about things. Use your legs when you need to. It's working really well with that defense right now. Steve, give your honest thoughts on it. Try not to be too harsh.
I mean, I had them just outside, maybe at like 11 or 12, but it is what it is. Bo Nix is playing well for a 30-year-old. When you've got all the time in the world to become an accurate quarterback because you can play 50 years in college, then it is what it is.
I agree.
But yeah, their defense is playing good.
Their defense is carrying the team.
It's unfortunate that they don't that they're not going to get the Chiefs again this season when it matters, because I think it'd be a different game.
Yeah. Okay. Spoon, what do you think?
So this was my team that just missed my top 10, but I completely see the argument for putting them in the top 10. I mean, they've won 5 of the last 7. After starting out 3-3, they're coming together pretty well. Their defense has let them down just a tad the last couple games, but their offense has proven that they can step up and help them win games as well. So I like what I'm seeing from this Denver team a lot, and they're definitely deserving to be in the top 10.
For sure. I will say, so in the top 10 power rankings, the votes, the number 9 spot, it goes 5. Number 10 was 4 votes. 11 was 3 votes. And then number 12 was 2 votes. So it's 5, 4, 3, 2. All right there. Each of them are 1 vote apart.
It was close. I told you it was tough.
Yeah,
it was
for
tough.
Sure. And then this next spot, we jump up to 13 votes. So you go from 5 to 13. So all the rest of these teams are kind of more staple top 10 teams. And speaking of staple top 10 teams, one we can't seem to get rid of is the Baltimore Ravens. They are hanging around. They're kind of getting punched around a little bit. They're not flying as high as they were in the middle of the season, but Lamar is still, in my opinion, should be the MVP favorite. But that being said, the Ravens are still a threatening team. Their offense is top 4, 5-ish in the league. That defense is a liability, but anytime you got Lamar and Derrick Henry and doing what they're doing, you can't discount them. They're a top 10 team. Steve?
I like the Ravens. Their defense has kind of been a little suspect this year compared to how it was last year. But you can't deny how great Lamar Jackson has been playing. So, I don't hate them there. They have the talent to be much higher. They just have fallen short. They just fallen short too many times this year. So that it can't hate them where they're at. I think I might have them a little higher, but.
So yeah, this is right where I had the Ravens pretty much, and it's because they've lost 2 of the last 3. And you're not gonna like this that I'm gonna say, but I feel like this Ravens offense has kind of slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah,
okay, perfect. Then you agree. We were talking about this offense a few weeks ago being the top dog, the best offense,
unquestionable number 1.
But now that they've played Pittsburgh, they've played the Chargers, they've played the Eagles, 2 very good defenses.
3 top 5 defenses, in my opinion.
Now that you see them play some good defenses, their offense struggled a little bit, and that's exactly what we did not expect to see. But that's why I have them at 8 right now, because they're still a great team. They got some big wins under their belt, but whenever they do play a good defense, that offense tends to struggle, and that's what they need to win the Super. If they're going to win the Super Bowl, that offense has to show up and at least put up 35 points every single game. It has to happen, because that defense is not going to bail them out.
Atrocious. All right. Next up on the list, the Green Bay Packers. They had a bye week, or not a bye week. They had a short week, and then played on Thursday night against the Lions. They lose to the Lions. I I've heard mixed reports. I've heard people say the Packers look good. I think the Packers got not in the scoreboard, but when you watch the game, I never felt like the Packers were truly threatening to run away with that game. I felt like it was always close. The Packers were trying. They played well. Detroit's an absolute monster this season. They're first in offense, second in defense. Like they're an absolute monster unit of a team right now. I do think they're trending. Like they're kind of plateauing. Detroit is, but it's hard to beat a team on a short week at their place. It's just hard division matchup. I think, bottom half of the top 10 is right for the Packers. What do you think, Steve?
That's right where I had them. I think I had them right at 6. Tough loss. I thought they looked okay. I was really pulling for them, just because I'd like to see a little bit more.
I was really pulling for them, actually. Really pulling for them.
But I'd like to see that. I mean, that division is so close. Like, people talk about Detroit, like they are blowing that division away. And, rightfully so. I think they're playing extremely well right now, especially with as banged up as their defense is.
Yeah.
But it seems like people seem to forget how close Minnesota is and how close Green Bay is. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's the competitiveness. I would compare it a lot of like the AFC West. There's just a lot more parity in the AFC West as opposed to what there is in the NFC North right now.
I mean, we got 3 teams in the NFC North that are going to be in our top 7 power rankings right here. I already know. Yeah. So that shows how dominant that division is this year.
And to be fair, we have 3 AFC West teams in the top 12.
Yeah. That's
both divisions are. But I was looking at the play. We'll get more into this in tomorrow's episode on the regular podcast, so make sure to check that out. But the playoff race, we could have 2 divisions send 3 teams to the playoffs this year. So that's something to watch out for.
I was just gonna say I've been high on the Packers. I've been saying that they're not a bad team at all. Out of their last 9 games, they have 2 losses, both of them coming to my number one, who I think is the number 1 team in the NFL. So I don't dog them for that at all. They're beating the teams they're supposed to. They're losing to the teams they're supposed to. I mean, they've lost. Their 4 losses come to 2 of them to Detroit, 1 to Philly, 1 to Minnesota. Those are all very good losses.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. So they are 100% deserving to be up in our top 7.
Yeah. I was looking at I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, and there was a post that said between the Packers, Lions, and Vikings, all 3 teams hadn't lost since October, and none of them had more than 1 loss to any team outside of the division. Yeah. So just crazy. All right. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are a defensive dominant football team, in my opinion. Got a little light glare coming through here. Hold on. Jesus, that's crazy. Defense dominant football team. They're really good right now. I mean, if this offense can hang its hat and play the way it's been playing the past 4 or 5 weeks, this is a Super Bowl contender all day. I could see this team going into Buffalo and winning. I could see them going to Kansas City and winning. Sorry, Steve. Just because they've been so good. The defense can play with anybody. The offense has shown they can put up points when they need to. I don't know if they can do it, but they have the potential to. And that's why I had them a few spots higher than Baltimore and Green Bay on my list.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think they'll go as far as Russell Wilson can take them, dude. Truthfully, I think their defense is incredible. Top of the league, but Russell Wilson is he's played great this year. So, but I think his sample size of just the last couple seasons, just how kind of not what we're used to seeing it's been. It's kind of hard for people to see it
Yeah, it is. I get what you're saying. It's difficult for people to trust Russ to go out there and win playoff football games, and I don't think Mike Tomlin's going to ask him to do that ever. I think he's going to put the ball on the ground. He's going to ask him to make a few throws here and there, and it's going to look very akin to what Russ did early in his career if they're winning playoff games. Spoon, your thoughts?
I'm excited about this team. Very excited, and I'm excited for what's about to come for this team. So and in the last, I think 9 weeks, maybe it's 8 weeks, they've only lost 1 game. It's an in-conference game. They have 2 decent wins against Washington and Baltimore. But besides that, all their out of conference games has been the Raiders, the Jets, the Giants. Three very bad teams. Their next 3 weeks, they go to Philly, they go to Baltimore, and then they play Kansas City at home. That is a tough 3-game stretch. So we're about to see just how good this Steelers team is, and I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah, be dope. All right, next up in a big fall from grace, the Buffalo Bills. This is wild to me. And I should say,
I think Steven probably had something to do with this one.
Hold on, timeout on the list. So this is our Buffalo Bills coming at number 5. I did mean to point this out before the beginning of the show. There was a tie in this week's points rankings, and I would like to ask the group, if it's mainly Spoon, because Spoon does this every week, if we can amend the tie-breaking procedures. So the
probably goes to the team with the best record, I would guess.
So the tie-breaking procedures have always been points voted on amongst us, then team record, and then team strength of schedule, and then team point differential. And I think it would benefit us to switch strength of schedule and point differential.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that okay?
That's fair.
I don't hate that at all.
Okay. Because that will switch our 3 and 4 teams, and I think it's a more accurate ranking if we switch the 3 and 4 teams. So, but with that, we're going to talk about the number 5 team, the Buffalo Bills. I have now switched it, so that's done. But the Buffalo Bills are they're incredible. They're a great football team. Josh Allen is insane. The offense is playing well. Unfortunately, they met an absolute powerhouse offense this weekend. I'm not pissed at this loss. No. The Rams are an incredible offense with a middle of the pack defense, but an incredible offense when they're firing on all cylinders. And I don't know if they can do that weekly, but this week they did it. So I am very okay with this loss. The Rams have beat the Vikings already. They were banged up early in the season, really banged up earlier in the season. And so I give them their record a little leeway. I think the Rams are a way better team than their record indicates, and Buffalo losing to them is not the end of the world. That I think Buffalo would win, yes. But you can't win them all. I'm okay with this. Josh Allen had 5 touchdowns. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had 6.
He had 6?
3 on the ground.
Yeah, 3 on the ground? Oh, I thought he only had 2 on the
air.
Jesus.
He had 6.
Christ,
I mean, they did fall. They fell for me anyway. But I felt like they fell for me mostly because the 4 teams I had ahead of them, I felt like if they matched up right now, I felt like they would win. So it's not that far, and
we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out this week.
I mean, they're the number 2. They're the number 2 AFC team on my list. I mean, they're right there. You know what 100%. I mean? So you call it a fall from grace, but.
Well, they were number 2 last week, and now they're number 5. That's more what I meant by that. They were number 2, and now they dropped 3 spots down to number 5. That's a pretty big fall for us. We don't usually drop teams 3 full spots in the top 5. It's usually like a 1 or 2 slot drop.
Which I only dropped them 2 spots.
Yeah, I dropped them all the way down to 4, so 2 spots for me. Riley had them down at 4. Steve, you had them a little lower, so I'm fine with them at 5. I'm not mad about it.
Because that means your Vikings are going up to 4.
Well,
that's why you're not mad about it.
Hold on. As I pointed out last week, I think the Vikings and the Bills are very similar teams, and the Vikings and the Bills have played 8 like opponents. The Vikings are now 7-8, and the Bills are now 6-8. So the Vikings have beat more of the same people than the Bills have. Bills' point differential is a little higher. They're winning some of those games better than we are, but we're beating more of the teams than they are. So I think they're very similar teams. I think they're on the almost even tier. I wouldn't be mad if you had Vikings at 5, Bills at 4, and vice versa. So, but speaking of the Vikings, unless anybody has anything else to say about the Buffalo Bills, real quick.
No, I was just saying I don't look at this loss at all as anything bad for them. They won 7 straight. It's tough to keep going, honestly, and. Through that 8-game stretch that they've just had, they've put up 30 points or more in every single game except 1. So that offense is still red hot. They just put up 42. I think their defense just had an off day, and that's basically all it is. I think they didn't have it. They weren't prepared for Puka or Cup.
And even if you are prepared, it's hard to stop them. Like, let's be real. Even if you're prepared, it's hard. So
Puka's a freaking nature, dude.
Puka's so good.
He's so good.
Nutty catches.
Dude, that one toe tap on the sideline, they freeze framed that, the Rams did, and they posted a picture. He said didn't even crease the J's. I thought that was mean as fuck. Mean as fuck. All right, number 4, my Minnesota Vikings. I don't really have everything to be said about the Vikings. I've said already personally.
You see that? You see he's blushing, Cooner?
I know.
I think they are. I think they can go toe to toe with Detroit because they have already. I don't fit. Philly does scare me a little more than Detroit because they're a non-division team, so playing them's a little more up in the air. Especially going to Philly would scare me a lot more than going to Detroit. But at the same time, Philly's strength is running the ball. They don't pass it well. The Vikings are the number 1 ranked run defense in the league, so we match up really well. Now, that being said, Saquon, so who knows what would happen there. But I have a feeling that the Vikings will be playing either the Lions or the Eagles in January. And either way, I'm not trying to sit here and say they're going to win. But either way, I think we can go toe-to-toe with either of them. Steve?
Yeah, dude, I like the Vikings a lot. Sam Darnold is throwing that thing. Kevin O'Connell's got them boys playing. You know, it's got to be fun to watch, huh, Bren?
It dude. It is the most crazy thing because you say it's got to be fun to watch, but you watch the games, and aside from like a couple of games here and there, you watch it and you're like, oh my God, what is going on? Why are we doing it? Why are we doing that? Like a couple weeks ago, I looked into the Sam Darnold, like how well he was doing situation, and I had to I checked like 18 different websites because I didn't believe that his stats were that good. I was like, I've watched every game. He's not playing that well, but he is. It's just weird. It's just crazy to me to see this.
Okay.
Boone?
So before I say this, the Vikings are playing well. We all know this. The Vikings are playing very much better than what we all thought they were going to be doing. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
They're on a 6-game win streak, which is good. I'm giving my reason why I didn't move them up in my ranking.
Yeah.
In the last 6 games, they've won them all. Not a single one of those teams are over 500.
Yeah.
And they've played almost every one of them close. That's why I can't move them up any higher. They are 2-2 against teams right now that are over 500. So they've only played 4 games against good teams, and they're sitting at 11-2. They also have a kind of a gimme next week. They play Chicago. I don't see Chicago beating them.
That's not a gimme.
I think it's going to be a gimme.
See, here's the thing with that. Here's the thing with Chicago being a gimme. If it was any other team not in the NFC North, it'd be a gimme. But they've played Detroit close. They've played Green Bay close. They played us close. They have those 3 losses for them to all the 3 of the rest of the NFC North are, I think the biggest win any of them have had is 3 points.
Okay. Well, my reason why I think it's a gimme is because the Vikings are going to be at home. They have the advantage. I think
I'll be at the game, so I pray to God they win.
Yeah, I'm like, if I had money, I would be putting it on the Vikings to win. But at the end of the season, their last 3 games, they play Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit. That's going to be very tough leading. And then going into the playoffs too, they might be banged up just a little bit, honestly. Because Detroit is a tough team. Green Bay is a tough team. Seattle is a tough team. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what the Vikings can do against 3 teams in a row that are all over 500.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll be at the Seattle game as well. Obviously, I live in Seattle, so I'll be at that game as well. So I'll be at
2 weeks in a row, buddy.
2 Vikings games. I'm super stoked about that. Yeah, no, I go to a couple games each year. This will be my 2nd game this year. Seattle will be my 3rd. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to what the Vikings can do against these tougher opponents. Yeah, I'm just interested to see what happens. But so this was the number 3 team originally, and that's why I switched the tiebreaker procedures, is because I think Philly deserves to be above Minnesota right now, and they are above Minnesota after we switched the tie-breaking procedures.
Thank you.
They have been the best team in football over the past month and a half, in my opinion. Better than Detroit. They've been nigh unstoppable. The defense is top 5. The offense is top 5. Yeah, like I said before, they worry me more than Detroit does. Going to Philly worries me more than going to Detroit. especially in January, muggy, cold weather in Philly, playing a run-dominant, good defensive team versus going indoors to Detroit where it's just loud and you're playing a high-flying, high-octane offense. Give me a shootout in Detroit versus a brawl in Philly.
The Eagles look nice, dude. They're my NFC team. I think they could beat anybody else in the NFC right now. I think Saquon's playing like his fucking life depends on it.
Saquon
dude.
is playing like we all knew he could. Everybody but the New York Giants knew Saquon could do this. Everybody else in the world.
Mr. Jones.
I've been saying it since the beginning of the season. Whenever the Eagles fell to 2-2, I kept putting them in my top 10. I kept saying, hey, this team is a good team. Just wait. What do you know? They win 9 straight, 3 in a row against teams over 500. 2 of those games being away. Yeah, they looked a little sloppy last week, but it's Carolina. It's a look-ahead game. I promise you they're already looking to this upcoming week where they play Pittsburgh. And then, honestly, their end-of-season schedule is pretty freaking easy. They play Dallas and the Giants back-to-back. Pretty easy.
That's something else to note about the Vikings. After they got the Bears next week, they got a tough
that's what Spoon was saying.
That's what I was saying. They have a tough 3-game stretch.
Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit. Only one of those is at home.
Yep.
The Seattle one doesn't. Now, watch, we'll go and lose the Seattle one. It doesn't scare me as much as the other two. It's still a tough game, don't get me wrong. But the Seahawks at home have not been the same team as the Seahawks on the road. The Green Bay game really scares. The Green Bay game scares me more than the Detroit game because we've already beat them once this year. So sweeping a team, especially a potential 10-win team, that doesn't really happen all that often, even if you're a 11, 12-win team yourself. So we'll see.
Yeah, but anyway, back to the Eagles. I think they are by far the hottest team in the NFL right now.
Absolutely agree. But unfortunately, they are tied for the second best record in the NFL behind one of our top 2 teams, the Kansas City Chiefs, Steve's Zone. Can't take them out because they're not losing. That's what we've been saying all season.
That's right, baby.
We can't take them out because they're not losing. Doinks or not, they're not losing games, so we can't drop them too far. Personally, I don't abide by those same rules. I don't think the Chiefs are a top 5 team right now just because they're skirting by so many close games. I watched it happen to the Vikings in 2022. Now, granted, you guys have Patrick Mahomes, a little different situation there. Not trying to say you guys are frauds. I just don't think that the way some of the other teams are playing right now, they're much hotter, and that's more what I go off of for my power rankings. So, not saying the Chiefs aren't a good team. They're just hotter teams in the NFL. Steve, give us your thoughts on your Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, there are hotter teams in the NFL that are playing worse schedules. I mean,
I agree.
The Chiefs are playing an unreal schedule. I mean, you can say the Chiefs have played 2 bad teams. Truthfully, we've played the Raiders and we've played the Saints. Everybody else that the Chiefs have played have been playing, at least as of late, like really decent football. I would even go in to say that Carolina's not as bad a team as people give them credit for. I think there's a lot of quarterback controversy, or at least there was. And, they're not winning games like they expect a number 1 overall pick to do right out the jump,
But he's playing a lot better.
Yeah, he's playing, I think he's playing great. That being said, I think the biggest problem with the Chiefs right now is their tackle situation. It is such an atrocious mess right now. There's not a lot of help left that's not already in the building. So it's going to have to be something that gets fixed internally. I think now, and there's no telling what we're going to do about DJ Humphries, if he's even going to be good to go again. He was kind of brought in to be the guy who's supposed to save the O-line, and he not been playing for 8 or 9 months, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I wasn't super impressed with the bit of game we did get before he got hurt. It makes me nervous. If anything makes me nervous about this team, it's not the play calling. It's not how Pat's playing. It's not even the defense that's been getting gashed.
I was just about to say, so expected points is I'm a big analytics guy. Expected points is a big like moniker for me on how a team is playing. And the Chiefs have had a negative expected points on defense for 6 consecutive games. The offense has been carrying the load since the bye week in week 7, in my opinion, based on that statistic. And they've beat some good teams. They've beat some bad teams. They've lost to one good team. Going into Buffalo, playing this hot Bills team is tough. I mean, that's really hard to do. So yeah, I think Kansas City is worthy of a top 5 spot. Like, I'm not going to argue against it. I just personally wouldn't put them there, is my thing. Spoon?
This is a tough team to rank because their record doesn't show what I believe I'm seeing in this team. I think the Chiefs, Steven, I'm sorry. I think the Chiefs should at least be, they're 12-1. They should probably be like 8-5. More than likely.
They should be.
They should be.
But they aren't.
But they aren't. And that's why they're staying in the top 2.
Yeah.
Out of their 12 wins, 10 of them have been decided by 1 score or less, and their last 4 wins have been decided by 3 points or less. So they're just not. And I mean, Carolina, the Raiders, like, they're not really great teams. I guess the Raiders is a division rival, so I can see that
division game.
Yeah, but man,
I think. Go ahead. I keep jumping in.
No, you're good. I can't. If this was my Cowboys team, I'd be super excited. Obviously, I'd be ecstatic, and I wouldn't want to hear that. But I'd be like, damn, we're kind of squeaking by each game. You know what? If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I've been there personally. Like I said, in 2022, the Vikings were 11-0 in 1-score games. We were doing this all year long. The difference was when the Vikings got beat that season, we were getting trounced. Like, we were getting beat like 38-7 when we were losing games, and then we'd come back and play Buffalo to 33-30 and win the game in. But crazy shit was happening. So I don't think you're quite that same potential, especially because I think the Vikings had a negative point differential for that season. You guys are currently sitting at a 56-point differential, which is just below the Ravens and quite a bit above the Texans in the AFC. It's about 4 points a game. So, middle of the pack in the AFC as far as point differential goes, but I'm not mad at it. Like, I'm not saying, oh, you guys are frauds. You guys are going to get bounced round 1. I just don't think there's.
I don't think the Chiefs are frauds. I don't think that they're going to get bounced round 1 either. I do think that they're probably going to end up going to the conference championship game. More than likely, they could possibly go to the Super Bowl. Who knows?
Yes.
But if I was.
Oh, sorry.
Continue. I was to say, if I was looking at who else is in the AFC right now, well, I mean, I guess the Bills. I don't know. The AFC just does not look that good to me.
The Bills, the Steelers, and then
the Steelers might be the team to knock the Chiefs out if there was a team.
That would be the team for me.
It's tough to beat a team twice. They played in Buffalo. I don't see the playoff game being in Buffalo this year, obviously. Well, the Chiefs would have the home field advantage. So
depends on if Buffalo beats Detroit this weekend.
Yeah.
Steve's a big Detroit fan this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool to see Buffalo fall even further, just because. But
I mean, speaking of number 1, the Detroit Lions. They are an absolute unit this season. I don't need to say anything else. I already said they're number 1 and number 2 in defense and offense. They're Ben Johnson is working absolute wonders. The defense is picked up light years. Aaron Glenn is working a masterpiece with all their injuries right now. Dan Campbell's coaching way better than he's ever coached. He's currently the coach of the year favorite, which I think is a little atrocious considering they were slated to be an 11-win football team, and they're going to be a 15, 14-win football team. Whereas Dan Quinn was slated to be a 4-win football team, and he's going to win 10 games, something like that. But either way, what are you guys' thoughts on the Lions? Steve, hit us first.
I like the Lions, man.
Fuck you.
Grit, baby. We'll see what happens, dude. The NFC looks tough, dude. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the Eagles right now. So that would be an interesting playoff matchup to see at some point. But they're where they need to be. They're beating the snot out of people that they need to beat the snot out of people. and they're winning the close ones in the division that they need to do. That's the first thing, man. If you want to establish dominance, man, it's wrapping up your division as quickly as possible. That's why the Chiefs have won 9 in a row. So we'll see what Detroit can do with these last divisional
I
matchups.
honestly, I feel like this Detroit team has forgotten what losing feels like. They haven't lost a game since week 2. Yeah. They're hot. They're not playing a weak schedule by any means. Out of their last 11 games, almost half of them have been to teams over 500. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing right now.
I mean, yeah, no, there's not much more you can say about it. They're winning games. They're playing good teams. They're winning games. They're playing bad teams. They're winning games. They're just winning.
I mean, they're beating the good teams some of them pretty close, and then they're dominating the bad teams. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot I can say other than this Detroit team does not. They just don't scare me the way people talk about them, because I know Minnesota can beat them. It's just if we do, it's a pick 'em for me, that game. I personally don't think they've played that many good teams outside of the division. Like they played
Seattle.
Colts. I meant in the past 6. Didn't you say in the past 6 weeks?
No, I've said that. I mean, they haven't lost since September, so I'm just going off of every single team.
Okay.
Yeah, since they last lost, they've played almost
Gotcha,
half of their teams have been over 500.
Gotcha. So 1, 2,
3, 4.
Outside of the division? Or are we talking in division?
No, I'm talking all games.
Okay,
all games. 5 of the last 11 have been against teams that are over 500. And if I'm looking at it right now, since week 3, so if we're starting week 4, since then, every single team that is not above 500 and not in their division, they've beat the crap out of. Dallas 47-9, Tennessee 52-14, Jacksonville 52-6.
I mean, they only beat Houston by 3. They only beat Houston by 3.
I said teams that are not above 500.
Oh, my bad.
Teams that are not in their division and not above 500.
Gotcha.
They have beat the crap out of.
Cool.
And that's, I mean, you can't really say that about any other team. You can't say that about the Chiefs. You can't say that really about the Bills. I don't believe, because they just lost to the Rams.
I mean, the one thing I'll say about that is that historically speaking, that doesn't really trend that well. I mean, name the last Super Bowl champion where you're like, oh, that team was dominant, like week 2 to week 16. They were just the dominant team in the NFL.
I mean, I feel like the Chiefs have pretty much been doing that for the last couple of years.
Last year,
everybody forgets how bad we were.
Yeah, last year the Chiefs were like a middle of the road team. Like, I don't know if they weren't playing in this terrible AFC West.
You guys were sitting on my couch, and I said to you, if Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes get this team together, team specifically, with all the drops and more losses than Pat's ever played or had, and more picks than he's ever thrown, if they take this team. Yeah,
the only time I can think of where like the dominant team that season.
I mean, they only lost 6 games. They still finished 11-6. So I mean, that's still
historically in Pat's the few years he's been in, that was the most losses.
I'm just saying, when you think of teams that are like Detroit is this year and just purely dominant when they're winning and they're beating good teams, I think of teams like the Ravens last year. The Ravens were doing this exact same thing, and then they lost in the playoffs. I think of teams like the 15-1 Packers, lost first round of the playoffs. I think of teams like the 2011 New Orleans Saints, lost the first round of the playoffs. Those are the teams I think of when I think of these dominant powerhouses, and it usually doesn't end up well. I'm not saying Detroit's going to get bounced first round. I'm just saying that usually teams peak too early when they do this. And I'm not trying to say Detroit has peaked. I'm just a warning, not a claim. But anybody got anything else to add before we wrap this up?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit all those buttons down at the bottom, and we will see you guys next week after week 15.